Hello, Cheeseheads. I hope you're enjoying the international break as much as we are. And you can't wait for Spurs to get back. So in the meantime, we thought we'd fill the void and produce like a little video just talking about the current squad. Now seems like a good time. In the back stretch, we're starting to look at what players we might get in. All the rumours are beginning. So we're going to talk about which players in the squad we definitely want to keep, which ones we're not too fussed about, and which ones we think we should definitely sell. For this video, I've got HG with me down below. Say hello,
Hello.
HG.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
And Seb, who's copied me but got a bit more extreme with his haircut.
Hello.
Seb's here as well. So we're just going to run through today's goalkeepers and defence, and then we'll do a second part video later on, which will cover the rest of the team. All right. So starting from the top, we are looking at Mr. Hugo Lloris. HG, what do you say?
Sell. The caveat will come later, I guess, but I think sell is what is going to happen.
No, tell me why.
I just think he's got 1 year left on his deal. I don't think he's going to sign a new one. And if he doesn't sign a new one, we have to sell him. I don't want to keep him for a year and see him go on a free because we need the money to replace him somehow. We need to find it somehow. So, yeah, like if it's not a long-term thing, then sorry, Hugo. I think it's probably good for you and good for the club that we let you go. So that's why. It's more a contract thing. If he signs a new contract, I won't complain. But if he doesn't sign one, then we need to sell him.
So if we signed him to a 1 year extension, 2 year extension in the summer, you'd be happy to keep him on his performances?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think even if it's just 1 year, just to give us another year's time before we have the same question next year, that's fine with me. But it's more a contract expiry question for me rather than quality. I'd like to keep Hugo around, but if he doesn't want to be here, then as far as the club is concerned, now is the time to let him go.
Okay. Seb?
Can I just echo everything that HG just said? Yeah, pretty much the same thing. You know, I'm a big Hugo fan. I think 8 years this summer at the club. It would be nice for him to do 10 years. But as HG said, if he's not going to sign that contract, sell him now, get some money in, and replace this summer.
Okay, perfect. Okay then, moving on to the understudy, Joe Hart. What do you think, Seb? He's not had to play a huge amount this year, but you can't really say he's done too much wrong, apart from maybe a few dodgy performances.
No, he was signed on a 2 year deal, and keep him for that extra year. I don't think it will get extended any time past that. But he seems to be a popular character in the dressing room, by all accounts, and good for the dressing room. So keep without a shadow of a doubt.
HG?
The only difference is that I can actually see him signing a new deal. I think if Mourinho sticks around, as a backup keeper, you're either going to have someone young who hasn't played that much, or you're going to have someone like Joe Hart. So he is only, I think, the same age as Hugo, 34, 35. I could see him staying a bit longer, but yeah, if he leaves on a free next year, then fine, because we got him on a free. It doesn't hurt us at all.
Here's that thing with backup keepers where you want them to be vaguely competent, and like you say, they're either going to be young and inexperienced, or they're going to be someone like Joe Hart. But the fact that he's happy to play that role doesn't seem to be agitating in any way. He knew what he was signing, and he's happy with that. So I think if he's happy to stay for another year, then why not? It's not like there's a huge amount of goalkeepers, and it's just a position we don't really want to be worrying about, I suppose. But then that brings us to Mr. Gazzaniga. What do we think about him, HG?
Sell. I mean, he's not first choice. He's not second choice. He's probably not going to be either of those. He's got a year left on his deal. So yeah, that's the type of person you go. Like if he was homegrown, you could say maybe offer him a new deal, but he's not even that. So he's got to go.
I think that's it. He's taking up a space, isn't he? But what about the ladies, Seb? What are they going to do?
I thought you were going to ask me about the ladies' team. Then I was going to be trying to make up something on the spot. Agreed. I think it cost us 2.6 million. I would be surprised if we even got that. I think he went to Elche on loan, and I think already he hasn't played. He hasn't played a game there. So I think we're going to struggle. I think to offload him. It might even be kind of a free transfer just to move the wages off the wage bill. But he should go in the summer.
Get him out of the way. The thing is, he did play relatively well in some of the games, but there was fans at the time saying maybe he should play instead of Lloris, which was kind of insane. And now he's just forgotten about, isn't he? Sexy man, but I don't think we need him.
Kung Fu expert against Chelsea as well. Remember
that?
And that's all we're going to remember him for. I mean, that's it. Like he did make some really good saves and played in some really important games, Champions League games for us. But yeah, he's going to be remembered for kicking Marcus Alonso for no apparent reason, which should make him a cult hero, really. But,
exactly, that's fair enough. Do you need a reason, HG? That's the thing. Okay, moving into the defence, we'll start the left and we'll go with the Welsh wonder, Mr. Davies. Seb, what do you think?
Keep. Underrated, good squad player, comes in 6 or 7 out of 10 most weeks. Occasionally you might get an 8, occasionally you might get a 5. But consistent player, good player. I like him. He's more than adequate backup to our other left back options that I'm sure we'll talk about later. But yeah, he's keep. Do you know how long he's got left on a deal? It's not expiring, is it?
No, it's not. He's got 2 or 3 years left.
Yeah, it's at least 2. We signed him up a year or so back, didn't we, to an extension. The thing is, he's versatile, and I'm sure that's what HG will say now, is that he should be slowly migrated to a centre-back. What do you think, HG? Keep him or sell?
I think he should be slowly migrated to a centre-back.
I knew my psychic powers were working.
Like, yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, Ben Davies is never going to really be a world beater, but you don't need that in every single position. The guy will give everything he's got. Most times it's going to be more than good enough. If you ask him to do things he can't, he'll struggle. But we saw in the Villa game, Reguilon played all right, but when Davies came on, if anything, we became a bit more solid. So that there are going to be occasions for him. I do think that as a left footer, he could be useful to be centre half later on, if not now, because we do seem to struggle down that side. But he's a definite keep because he offers something guaranteed.
Okay. So this makes me think we're not going to have any changes at left back. We'll move next to Reggie. HG, what do you think of his season so far, and would you keep him?
I think if Real Madrid don't want him and he doesn't want to leave, then he'll stay. I mean, 4 years left on his deal. He's probably only going to get better, you would hope. He's had a pretty good season by all accounts. He is better than Davies. We can't deny that. He offers more going forward, which is what you want from a fullback these days. So, yeah, he's a definite keep. I'd like to see him maybe get a bit stronger. Because obviously the English game is a bit different to Spain, but he's won the Europa League with Seville. I mean, he was a good buy, even at the 30 million euros or whatever we paid. It's a decent investment for the future. So and he's not done anything wrong, like another fullback on the other side. So we got to keep Reggie.
What do you think, Seb? Maybe slightly questionable in his defending at times, but you can't sort of fault the impact he's had going forward, can you?
I'm worried. Obviously, I want to keep him, but my worry is that my understanding is we paid 30 million euros. Madrid can buy him back for 45 million euros. Now, you say he has to want to go, and I get that. But if Madrid receive a bid from elsewhere for 60 million euros, why would they not buy him? And why would he not look at PSG, or if someone like that wanted to buy it?
Because they don't own him. They don't own him. We own him, but they've just got a buyback clause. So I suppose.
Of course, but if PSG want to buy him and he wants to go, then he goes to Madrid. He goes to PSG via Madrid, and Madrid make money out of it.
That would be some next level shithousery from Madrid, though.
Yeah, 100%. But I wouldn't put it past them.
No, I mean the thing is that's why the buyback clause is there. I mean, it suits everyone. Like Spurs will make a 50% profit on the person that they bought. Like, we don't want to see it happen, but it's designed so that in effect everyone wins. Like, if Real Madrid want him back for themselves, then he's had a decent loan at a decent club. That's in effect what it would be. And they've paid us 15 million euros to loan him. I mean, that comes into it. And yeah, if there is another team that wants to come in and spend that amount of money and he wants to go, then there is nothing we can do to stop it. But yeah, like, the risk is there for all sides, but in theory, all sides can win. Real Madrid got a decent price for someone they didn't want. We paid a decent price for someone who might be with us for the next 3 to 5 years. And yeah, okay, there's a buyback clause, but I don't know if that's as important as it seems to have been made out by lots of Spurs fans.
No, I think the chance of that scenario happening are pretty slim. He'll be with us, and I think, yeah, we definitely want to keep him.
That's fine. Famous last words.
Yeah, I know, kiss of death. Right, Seb, Mr. Doherty, what do you think? Has he done enough this season to win you over?
You leave on a free, I care. He's an Arsenal fan. Yeah, he's an Arsenal fan and he plays like it. Yeah, what do you want me to say? I mean, he's been dross, and there's no excuse for picking up the pace of the Premier League like we've given Ndombele or others who haven't played in the Premier League before. The only caveat against for him is that I've read that he was signed to play the attacking wing-back role, and then obviously we had the opportunity to sign Reguilon, and that massively changed the formation that Mourinho intended to play. But if you're a competent right-sided footballer, you play. It doesn't matter if you play in the final third, the middle third, or the top third. In my book, you do the job, and he just hasn't performed. There hasn't been even an average performance. He's been below average every single time he's taken to the pitch. So if there's an opportunity to get rid of him, get rid of him.
I think that's the thing. Defensively, he's not looked great, but really going forward, he's not really done a huge amount either, has he, HG?
Done nothing.
No, I mean, this is it. Like in the opening game, he had a decent chance that Pickford saved, and apart from that, I don't really think we've seen him going forward at all. Obviously, he had issues with COVID before, just before he signed for us. He's been in and out of the team. You don't really know. Maybe we're not playing a system that suits him. But at 29, like, is he really worth improving? If we can get our money back, yeah, we probably should. That's not to say that he's not tried his hardest. I believe he has. I just think that it hasn't worked out for him. It hasn't worked out for the club, and it would be best for everyone if we cut our losses a little bit, even if it means that we're paying an extra, 10, 15,000, as wages to help that deal go through, maybe.
Yeah, I think his COVID was actually during the season. Because it's been a weird year, we just kind of forget. I think it was during an international break, wasn't it? Like a month or so into the season. But I don't think he's been hugely affected. We've not seen stories like that, and I don't think he was particularly great before that. So we're not having that as an excuse. Right, HG, up next our other right back, Mr. Aurier. What do you think? Keep him, or is it really time for him to go now?
And this is the question, isn't it? Because if you let Doherty go, then do we want both of them to go? Because Serge's situation is the same as Hugo's. He's got a year left on his deal. We probably have to offer him a new one. If we do, it might only be for 1 or 2 years as far as the club is concerned. But as far as Serge is concerned, this is probably his final big deal. Like, so he's going to want a nice long commitment where he knows what money's coming in. If it were up to me, I would try to find a way to keep him, because I really don't think he's as bad as people say.
No.
Having said that, if we were able to get a second right back in, to get 2 youngsters that are going to compete with each other, then I'd be all right with that too. But I think Serge of the 2 is the one I would like to keep. But I do think that if he has no interest in staying, we have to sell him. We have to move him on and try to move forward as a club.
So
I would like to keep him, and I've never been anti-Serge like a lot of people are. You mentioned the second young right back, and I'm sure we'll talk about him soon. But for me, that's Tanganga, and I would like to keep Serge. I would offer him a new deal. I don't actually know how old he is, but I'm guessing he's 28, 29. I would offer him that deal. I have no problem with him at all. I think he's a good, tidy player. He seems popular in the dressing room, and I'd have Tanganga as his understudy.
It's interesting with Tanganga is that you could say that Tanganga and Davies are almost opposites of each other. Like they both can play centre back, whereas Aurier and Reguilon would be the attacking fullbacks. So it gives you the option if you did want to mix and match, or if you did want to play them both defensively, or play the 2 attacking ones that Spurs are able to decide on something to do. Like Tanganga to me is, we'll go on to him now, but Tanganga is that kind of one where he needs games. And I think he's good enough to get games for Spurs. So the question is, where is he going to play for Spurs? And so if Aurier stays, then Tanganga is his backup. Then that could work really well as a 4.
Are you surprised this year, HG, that we've not seen more of Tanganga?
I think every time I've seen Tanganga play, I've been surprised at how good he is. And in my brain, he's not good. So it's one of those weird things that, like, I don't often want to see him start. But when he starts, I think, oh no, you're actually quite good. You're a quality defender. So it's an interesting dilemma, because I don't really understand what I want from him. Do I want him to be a reserve centre back, or a reserve right back, or even someone who can be a first team player and play most weeks? Because he never looks out of place. No. He never, I saw him live in Linz this season. He started that game and he looked a little bit uncomfortable, but it was like playing football on ice. So I can imagine why. I don't think anyone looked comfortable that night. But yeah, there's something about Tanganga. The question is, what do we want him to become? If we want him to be a fullback, then he's going to have to learn that role a little bit better. But as a centre back, is he really good enough? Because he's not the tallest. There are question marks, but I do think that Tanganga is someone that we need to keep around. Loaning him out will help another team, but maybe he's good enough to be part of our 25-man squad.
No, I agree. I think, again, versatility. And I think the problem is he's quite pacey and, like you say, not that tall. So they maybe think he's suited to a right-back position. But, Seb, do we keep him for his versatility then?
Yeah, Tanganga is 100%. He's obviously homegrown as well. But yeah, as HG said, he's never let anyone down. He's played some big games. Davies was Liverpool. He played against City. He played that game against Villa that's just gone. That was a big game. That is a massive game. If we'd have lost that, all hell would have broken loose. So there's a lot of pressure on, and Mourinho trusted him to play that game, and he played well. So he's never let anyone down. He's a no-brainer keep for me.
Excellent. Right, let's go to the other end of the scale then. Toby, a defender coming towards the end of his career. Do we keep him? How much longer for? Seb?
Yeah, we keep him. I'm not great. I'm not as good as HG with the contract lengths and things like that. But obviously, we know he signed a new one last year. No reason to sell him at all. But as we've seen this season, and it will carry on, I imagine going forward, he won't play every game. He is slowing down, but he's still a more than competent defender. So yeah, keep.
HG?
Agreed. I mean, yeah, two years left from the summer. He could do what Vertonghen did, and honestly, I'd be happy for him to stay for those 2 years and leave on a free. There are certain players that I feel maybe have deserved that honour, and Vertonghen was one. I think Toby would deserve it too. Toby would be 30. Was he 32 now? So he'd be 34 when his deal runs. It'd be a good time for him to go back to Ajax like he wants to do. So yeah, we keep him for next season for sure. But whether he's a starter every game or a rotation piece, that we don't know. But he definitely stays.
Okay, I'm going to play about with the order at the moment because I'm going to leave the two most interesting and probably relevant till last. So next we'll go with HG, Cameron Carter-Vickers. Is he going to make his way into the squad next season, or do we just get rid?
I think his contract runs out in the summer, so I think it's pretty obvious that he will probably just make a free transfer move to Bournemouth, where he is now. Yeah. I can't imagine he'll go somewhere else. He's playing every week for a side that are top level Championship team.
Yeah.
Nice place to live. Do you know what I mean? I think Carter-Vickers will definitely go. He's never really shown enough at Championship level to see that we were desperate to have him back, or he's proved to be a star player at that level. So yeah, it's good for Spurs. It's good for him that he gets a career, but we're not going to get any money for him probably.
Do we not get a little bit because coming through the
yeah, I mean, there might be some training fee of a few 100,000 or whatever, but
50 quid and a club shop voucher for Bournemouth or something like that. Levy will take anything. Seb, do you agree with that? Because we've not really seen a huge amount to judge him, and most of us aren't watching centre-backs in sort of the lower divisions to figure out how he's getting on, are we?
No, I mean, I saw a little bit of him when he was at Stoke, but he struggled to get into the team. So, yeah, I kind of forgot about him, to be honest. It surprised me when you said that name. So, yeah, if you like, whatever. What do you want me to say? His contract's gone, and yeah, and
you're not bothered.
No, I'm not bothered at all.
Fine. Okay, another youngster that you probably are a bit more bothered about, Mr. Roden. He's not been given a huge amount of opportunity this year, but he has played and he looks all right, hasn't he? Seb?
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Yes, in answer to your question, yes to all of that. He's not been given too many opportunities, but when he has, he's done okay. Obviously, a little bit shaky against Chelsea, but that was to be expected. And he did all right in the last game. He looks competent enough. The other thing is, when he's played internationally, he's looked very good. So yeah, I think if you put the right person next to him, he's a no-brainer. I've seen some people saying maybe he should go out on loan next season and get a year in the Championship under his belt. He's done that. Yeah. So I don't see any point in that. I'd keep him in and around the first team.
He's not young enough to need that anymore. He's had his experience. He's had game time, and I think we've bought him. I'm just a little bit maybe disappointed that he's not played that much this season. But do you think? I'll just ask you this quickly, Seb. Do you think that he and Tanganga are sort of decent youth prospects to start playing a bit more next season? Then,
Yeah, I do. I think, look, who knows what European competition, if any, we're going to be in next year. But if we are in the, obviously we hope we're in the Champions League, but if we are in the Europa League, then they'd have opportunity. And if we're in the Champions League, you'd argue as well, they'd have opportunity in the Premier League if we're saving things for the Champions League. Yeah, for me, Tanganga and Rodon are good, progressive options in that back line. When we are, as we've spoken about with Toby, going to have some players who are ageing and maybe, if you're talking about Aurier, out of form. So, we need to have those young options who are given a chance to show they are good enough for the first team. Otherwise, what's the point in having the squad?
Yeah, agreed. HG, Rodon, what do you think?
It's been tough, for him because he hasn't played that much. He's actually, I think, 23. So he's not a youngster, but he's played regularly in the Championship. Maybe the step up to Spurs was a bit too much to begin with, so it did take him some time to get used to the level. But yeah, it's all about partnerships to me. Like, we were very much spoiled with Toby and Jan being as good as they were and having played together as long as... That really, it all worked from day one. We didn't have to worry about were they going to work together. And right now, you look at our options and think, where's the partnership? Who... Like, Rodon... To me, sometimes looks like a deer in the headlights, doesn't look too confident that he knows what he wants to do, but he's got the skill and he's got the physical attributes to do it. It's just a question of, can he look the part in some cases? I think he just looks nervous. But yeah, it's a tough one because I feel like we're going to have lots of rotational pieces at centre-half next season, but very few players, or maybe not even one, that says, I am a first-team choice. I am going to play every game. Because I think that's what's kind of lacking at centre half. We going forward, who is going to be the first choice partnership? We need to figure that out.
Well, okay, moving on to those then. We'll go with Sanchez first. HG, what do we do? Because if we're going to get new centre backs in, probably one of these needs to leave, and they're probably only two players in those centre back position we're going to get decent money for. So what do you think? Sanchez, keep or sell?
Sanchez to me is very similar to Rodon. He's got more experience. He's played at a World Cup. If it's one or the other, then I'd probably keep Rodon. But it's not as if Rodon counts as homegrown in Europe. I mean, he does in the Premier League. So I guess either or is fine with me. What I want us to see is to buy someone who really is first choice. But then if it's Sanchez next to them or Rodon next to them or whoever, but yeah, we've got lots of I'm not sure options. And that's worrying. So if Sanchez is the one that's worth the most money in the market, then perhaps he is the one that will go. But it's not really down to how good or bad he is. It's just a reflection of we've got lots of average and we can't keep so many.
Seb, he's a player that loads of fans really don't like. What do you think, Sanchez? He's kind of won us over in the last few games because he's shown that he's fairly competent, but he does have some dodgy performances. What do you think? Do we keep him?
If it's down to me and money is no object, then you get rid of him.
Right.
But it's not down to me. It's down to Mr. Levy, who paid 40 million quid for him, and there is no way that he's worth that amount of money. Yeah. You might even argue that in today's climate, you struggle to get half of that, and for that reason, he's not going because Mr. Levy is not going to sign off a £20 million loss on a player that he's had for three seasons or 4 seasons. I can't remember. So I just can't see him going. It's not a case of what do I think. He just won't go because unless someone came in with 40, 50 million quid, which I don't think they're going to do. So he's there.
So here's hoping Sanchez as a blinder to the end of the season.
I will say that look, as far as Sanchez is concerned, it could be very much like what happened with Foyt, where we loan him out somewhere with an option to buy for the team. Because we're not sure then or if they want to, but it does get him off our wages at least for this season. Because maybe Sanchez is more suited to a different league, maybe more comfortable. But I just think if we're going to go with 4 centre backs, right, and if Tanganga isn't one of them, then you've got Toby we want to keep, you've got Rodon we want to keep. Suddenly you're looking at 2 others. If Sanchez is one of them, then fair enough. But it's a tough choice because. We really do need to think about who works well together. Weirdly enough, if Sanchez and Rodon, who played against Villa, if those two hit it off, then suddenly you've got a centre-back partnership for the next 4 or 5 seasons. Done. right? It's just that they're different footballers to Toby and Jan, who are much more comfortable on the ball. Sanchez and Rodon are much more like the type of people that they just want to head it out or kick it out. They're not trying to really build from the back. That's not their game. They are much more like Dawson, someone who's put their body on the line to keep the ball out. That's the question. What kind of defenders do we want? Because if we want ball playing ones, then we need to buy some. And if we want others, then both of them are really good options. It's going to be a tough choice.
Yeah, I think Rodon would argue with there, actually. I think he thinks he's a bit better on the ball than that. But, again, we've not really seen a huge amount of it. So, finally, Mr. Dier, Seb, what do you think? If we're not getting rid of Sanchez, then surely Dier's getting the chop.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Is it because he's got your haircut?
Sell Eric Dier. I feel Eric Dier is a bit of a charlatan. I'm not saying that nastily. I feel that he's actually quite a clever person, not necessarily on the football pitch. But I think he saw an opportunity in the last few days of Pochettino that he wasn't going to get into that midfield where I feel he played his best football both for Spurs and for England. He wasn't going to get into that Tottenham midfield, and he saw an opportunity at left-sided centre-back. And then he came out, I think, when Mourinho joined, he said that's where he wants to play, because there was an opportunity to play there. As we've discussed with our defenders, none of them were at the top of their game. At the time, Jan was struggling. So he saw an opportunity and he went for it. And, the jury's maybe out on whether it was a success, but there was a space there and he took it. And now I think he's done. I'd be happy to keep Dier on two things, which can't happen. One is if he was homegrown, and secondly is if he wanted to play defensive midfielders back up to Højbjerg. I can't see that happening, and therefore you sell him. And he's at an age now where he'll command still a decent fee. I would imagine 30 million quid, something like that, would be enough to tempt Levy. What did we pay for him? 5 million, was it? 4 or 5 million?
Yeah, peanuts.
He's been good over that 7 years, but now's the time.
What do you think, HD? His bromance with Delhi. If Delhi's potentially on the way out as well, it could spell in the end for Dier. But I agree with Seb. Like when he started, one of his biggest assets was being able to read the game from that defensive midfield and sort of marshal the team when teams were countering against us. He kind of nullified a lot of that, but then he did have Dembele next to him, sort of helping out quite a lot. So I just don't think he's really proved himself at centre back. He's got mistakes in him. Some games he looks really good, but it's that consistency, isn't it?
Yeah, I think all of us are sitting here thinking one of Dier or Sanchez is going to go. Like they can't both stay because the group we have isn't good enough, so we have to try and make space for someone new. Neither are homegrown. It's tough because the thing I loved about Dier when he started in the team was that he had the mentality that I think Spurs had lacked. He came out and said that I don't like Tottenham like this, because we all know that we've been a soft touch for most of our lives, and so to see that team where we weren't a soft touch. Even then, it was kind of ironic that Dier played his best football almost when we had that 3-4-3, and he was the third centre back alongside Toby and Jan. I agree with Seb that he's been great for us. It's unfortunate what happened with Pochettino towards the end, because I don't really know why he stopped playing defensive midfield, why he was no longer in the team. Was it the appendicitis? Was it something else? I remember, Franco, when you and I went to Barcelona. That was the first game where he wasn't in the team, and I was shocked because I thought that he is our defensive midfield. He's the guy that we can kind of depend upon to at least, again, be like Davies, always give a 7 out of 10, won't make too many mistakes, will keep it simple, has a decent long pass on him. But do you know what I mean? It's really strange to see almost his decline almost coincide with the fact that he switched position, because I don't think any of us really thought he was a great centre-half. He's never had the pace to get himself out of trouble, and when we were playing the high line that we did under Poch, he struggled. It was only really this season with Toby, when they both sat back and we played the low block, that he kind of came into his own. So yeah, it's like every single position within our defenders, it really depends on what we want them to do. If we want them to sit back, then I want Dier over Sanchez. If we want them to play on the front foot and you need pace, then you have to keep Sanchez over Dier. But at some point we have to make a choice of what we want to do. and that I think is the tough part, because with Mourinho, you never really know. But yeah, I mean, Dyer's 27 now. Yeah, I mean, I think there might be more interest in selling Sanchez, to be honest. I think other teams might want him. He's a couple of years younger than Dyer. I don't know if Dyer is particularly well known outside of the UK anymore. Whereas Sanchez, teams will have heard of him, they'll have seen him. Dyer, to us, he's important to us, but it's not as if there are teams in the UK that are desperate to buy him either.
No.
So it's a tough one. It really is a tough one.
Are there any South American? Is there any South American tournaments in the summer? Obviously we've got the Euros where people will be watching. Is there a South America? Is there the South American tournament this year as well?
Not sure. We need Brendan for this.
I think there probably must be, because if the World Cup's next year, it can't be next year,
Yeah,
and it's been
exactly.
a while. I think the Copa America had switched to being every 4 years again, but because I mean they've played that so often regularly or recently. I think they played like 2 in 2 years, and they haven't had one for 3 or something like that. But yeah, there are play. Are you thinking about trying to spot someone new, Seb, or what?
No, I'm
he's hoping
Sanchez
Sanchez
is going to be spotted. If Sanchez can play well for Colombia, and Spanish team think, hey, that's the answer.
Well, I think you're hoping for a lot there. So we'll see. You've got more chance of Dyer doing the same, I think, in getting called up to the Euros, having a blinder. Don't think that's going to happen either, mate. Okay, that's good. That's the defence and goalkeeper positions done. Thanks ever so much for joining, guys. Let us know in the comments below what you would do with the players. Any you hate, any you really want to keep. And look out for the next video. Seb's going to get substituted for another Northerner with a caller coming in. And we'll be discussing the midfield and striking options later on. So if you haven't subscribed, please do so. And until next time, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.